Welcome everybody to the fourth episode of my beginner series for Dyson Sphere Program, where I'm just showing you the key milestones of this game so you can understand from a beginner's perspective what you're getting yourself into. And okay, I'm getting dizzy with this view. Okay, stop. Land, please. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, that's better. So if you saw the last episode, and if you haven't, I definitely recommend you to check it out. Things change a lot. So the jump from the previous milestone, i.e. the yellow cubes, to this one, the purple cubes, it's quite significant. And why is that? Let's take a look at the recipe. The purple cubes recipe needs processors, which are fairly straightforward to produce, but those I'm going to call it blue greenish materials. They require silicon, which normally your starting planet does not have, so that involves traveling back and forth between the planets until you build something that you might have noticed that I have in my planet, which are some logistic towers. You have planetary logistic towers and interplanetary logistic towers, I'll show you in a sec. And then you also need particle broadbands. Now this is really complex, so things start to, the difficulty, let's say, starts to ramp up. I think blue is really cool for you to start learning the absolute basics about this game. Red starts to introduce some challenges, blue again, and now purple, right? Yeah, I think the way the game progression is designed is pretty cool. So for you to build particle broadband, you need nanotubes. For you to build nanotubes, as you can see in the recipe, you need graphene. For you to build graphene, you need graphite and sulfuric acid. So for you to build sulfuric acid, you need refined oil, stone, and water. So as you can see, to get just one of these materials, which is the nanotubes, you need a lot of stuff. This one is fairly linear, but this one also requires multiple steps, particularly the oil, the refined oil. So this is really complex to make. This is not so much, and this is a little bit complex. So you have like easy, medium, and hard just to produce this one. And that's why, let's take a look at the planet. That's why things evolved a lot from the previous milestone into now. And what you see here, I have a lot of towers everywhere. These are the planetary towers, or logistic towers, I think they are called. Let me click on them. Planetary Logistics Station. Some people call them PLS for short. And then you have the big ones, that I only have one at the moment, which is this one, called Interstellar Logistics Station, or ILS. So let me start with the easier. Oh, by the way, the reason why I have a lot of planetary logistic stations and only one interplanetary is because I thought it was a good idea to just have one input-output from the planet. So the planetary logistic stations is just to distribute goods inside your own planet. So you cannot send anything from this tower to another planet. And this can be used for both. So I could potentially, and I think that's probably the best way going forward, although I will not do this now. I will play as a beginner because I played this save game when I was, let's say, an advanced beginner, but still a beginner. Now I rarely build planetary logistics stations because this one does both. And they become bottleneck. So basically, what I'm trying to do here is have an input-output so I can monitor production to understand what's going on. And in theory, this is a good idea, but this will become a bottleneck because you can only have 10 interstellar vessels. So you see those two types of vehicles. You have the drones, which you can have a lot of them. As you can see, there are 100. But then you only have 10 as a maximum of, I think they call logistic vessels. And these are the ones that travel between planets or stars. Well, between planets across multiple solar systems, I should say. So these become a bottleneck because you only have 10. And when you reach the final stages of the game, you're going to be, your logistic network is going to be so overwhelming, you need a lot of this. So a good advice for you is build by default, always try to build Interstellar logistic station instead of the planetary ones. But as a beginner, it might help you, like it did to me, to only have a few of these so I can understand the flow of goods between other planets and my main planet, if it makes sense. Okay, let's now take a look at the factory. Actually, let me just zoom in a little bit into the planetary logistics station, because as a beginner I remember struggling a little bit with this. So the planetary logistics stations are relatively simple compared to the interstellar one. So let's start with this one. So basically you have two modes here. You have a demand and a supply. I think it's pretty straightforward. When you have this on demand, any other towers that are supplying silicon would then transfer the materials here using the drones. And same with supply. So this one, in this case, this tower is demanding silicon and copper and supplying these microcrystalline components. And then other towers, let's see this one for example, are demanding and supplying other stuff. So what you'll see, if I zoom out, you see all these drones, they are flowing, let's say, according to how you set up these towers. And it can get quite messy in the long run. As you can see, there's a lot of flying drones around here. What else is important? Oh, so every time a drone gets launched, it consumes energy. Oh, and by the way, you see the statistics about the logistics drone? You can improve those by doing some research. The carrying capacity and flight speed, etc., you can increase. And if you notice here the power bar, every time a drone goes off, it consumes energy. And that's when these stats become important. So the charging power is how fast it can be recharged. Obviously, this consumes a lot of power from your power grid. So I would leave, as a beginner, I'll leave this as default. I think later on, you want to make sure that your drones are the minimum load before they travel is quite high, so that they are not just traveling with just, let's say, one ingot. You wait for it to accumulate before the drone travels. This is something I would recommend, because if you can check the carrying capacity, you can only carry 37. There's no point of a drone lifting off with less than 37 and consuming energy for just to transport a handful of goods. Okay, so that's this transport range of drones. I'm not sure, to be honest. I've never used this option, so I'm not going to comment something I don't know. And now let's take a look at the Interstellar logistics station. So the Interstellar logistics station adds a bit more of complexity. So you have the same type of options, but it differentiates between local and remote. Local is something within your planet, and remote is depending from remote planets, if it makes sense. For example, the titanium is supplying locally. So if I have other interstellar or planetary logistics stations, these drones will then provide titanium to them locally, only within this planet. But remote interstellar logistics stations, and again, only interstellar logistics stations, can provide goods between planets. So if I have, and I must have, an interstellar logistics station on another planet supplying, like here, remote supply titanium. Make sense? So you need both here, because as you can see, you need the vessels, and these are the only ones that can transfer goods between planets. So you need these guys as well as the drones. So you need both. This is optional if you're not transferring inside your planet. So even if you have two interstellar logistics stations on the same planet, these vessels are not going to be used. Okay? So if you want to use interstellar logistics stations for everything, you need to make sure you have both. You rarely need to put 100 on each, but you'll figure out the ratio for yourself. I normally, now in my, let's say, more advanced games, I normally put like 30 or 40. I don't even put half. But again, depends on the demand of goods and how busy the tower gets. And then you have down here you have the charging power is the same with the Planetary logistics station. Every time one of these vessels lifts off, it consumes some energy. And this is the transport range of vessels, which how far they can travel. So it's infinite, which is fine. I think this is the defaults actually, so don't play with this. As a beginner, at least don't. And this is the distance to enable warp. This is the default. I wouldn't play with this as a beginner. It's just a quick FYI. So for your vessels to travel between planets, they are quite far. So you want to have warpers, which I still don't have. I still did not unlock the technology. Actually, let me show you my Mac real quick. Oops, wrong key. You see here, you need warpers to travel between solar systems. Technically, you don't need. There's actually an achievement where you can travel from one solar system to the other by just using the normal flight or sail mode, but it's really, really slow. It takes probably hours to go from one solar system to the other. So you need to develop a technology, which we will talk about on the next milestone, that enables you to build warpers. And once you have warpers, then you'll have another section here, and you need to make sure they have warpers so can travel between solar systems. In this case, when you reach this purple milestone, you don't really need warpers, because you should find the two materials you actually need, which is silicon and titanium. And normally your starting solar system, not planet, but your starting solar system contains both. So you don't really need to travel between solar systems, so you don't really need warpers yet for long distances. But this basically is when to trigger warper usage. That's basically what it means. And again, leave it the default. Then you have the minimum load of the drones and the vessels need to have before their departure. As you can see, the vessels already start with the default of 100%. And again, I recommend the drones to be 100% as well. But this is kind of optimizing your infrastructure, that as a beginner you probably don't want to worry too much about this. This is more like an FYI. Okay, another thing I wanted to show you in this video is a factory for the most common materials you need, mainly sorters and belts. So I created here a factory just for this, although I am kind of forwarding the excess in this Planetary logistics station so it can be used elsewhere. But ideally this is not a great idea, but as a beginner you might want to optimize production by redirecting the excess to a Planetary logistics station or even an interplanetary one, so other factories can use this. And just to show you real quick the logic here. So for you to build belts and sorters, which you'll need tons of them, you need kind of similar materials. Here, for example, you need iron and gears. Here you need iron and what's it called? That green stuff over there. What's the name of it? Circuit boards, that's it. And here you need green motors. It's not really called green motors. I call them green motors. This is called electromagnetic turbine. And then these are the blue motors, which they aren't blue motors, they are supermagnetic rigs. But in my brain, these are red motors, green motors, and then blue motors. But anyway, so these 6 items, they kind of share similar components and they need motors, basically. That's kind of the summary of it. So I created a small motor factory here with the red, green, and blue. And the proportion is normally you need twice as many of the red ones that you need green, and same for blue. It's not that linear, but it's more or less, roughly speaking, you need twice as many. So that's kind of the ratio you have here. And then here I store everything in boxes, and every time I need something, I just go to my factory and I'll pick them up. Another factory that you might want to do is a foundations factory. So I'm currently reworking this factory, but I had a factory here that was producing a lot of this, and you'll need a lot. So don't be shy about producing, having a factory just to produce foundations, because you'll definitely need it. So this is supposed to be an episode about the purple cubes, and I only showed you the recipe. So let's talk a little bit about the cubes. As always, you want to produce a matrix lab to feed the main matrix level where you actually do the research. And for now, I just plopped a couple, and I want to show the factories that feed this purple matrix lab factory. Okay, so the first one is the processors. So let me just remind you of the recipe. So for this you need processors and particle broadbands. So processors is not too complicated. Just bear in mind that you need a lot more, what's it called, microcrystalline components than you need circuit boards, because these are the recipe for the processor. So you need 2 microcrystalline components and 2 circuit boards in order to produce a processor. And this is what the factory looks like. So the other factory is a bit more complicated because you need, for particle broadbands, you need nanotubes, silicon, this one is easy, and you need plastic. So for you to build nanotubes, you need graphene, and to build graphene, you need sulfuric acid. So that's what you see here. I have an acid building factory, I have a graphene building factory, and I'm already producing this. I don't remember why am I producing this? Why do I need this? I'm not sure why I don't remember why I'm building this. Oh, it's to build the towers, that's right. That's why I'm building those. Okay, and you'll need them in the future as well for other stuff, but yeah, this is to build the towers, that's right. Okay. So yeah, I have here a small factory for this, and I have another factory to build the vessels as well, that's right. And I don't think I have a factory to build the towers yet. No, I was looking around. No, I don't have it yet. It will come, because I want to automate building this stuff, because again, you'll need a lot of these towers going forward. But for now, because I only need a handful, I've been creating them on the replicator, which is here. If you click the F key, by now you should know what a replicator here. If you don't know, please go back and see the previous episodes where I go through the basics in a bit more detail. So that's what the factory looks like. Here's the nanotubes factory, and these are the particle, what's it called? Particle broadband factory. Another important thing at this point is because you're going to build a lot of stuff and that consumes a lot of energy, is you need a better energy source than you had previously. And what I recommend at this stage to build is a small factory like I have here, to build these, what are they called? Hydrogen fuel rods. So these really power your mech for a long time. The consumption here, it basically gives a lot of power to your mech, and you can build a lot of stuff and travel between planets, etc., without too much hassle. And you don't have, this is the point I think where you really don't have to worry about energy. And what I'm using here, as you can see, is excess hydrogen and titanium. Those are the 2 ingredients for the recipe, which you can check here. And because at this point you already have titanium in your logistics network, it's quite easy to direct a little bit. As you can see, 1 titanium produces 2 of these, and you should have plenty of hydrogen at this stage to produce this. As you can see, you don't need a lot. So I'm just producing a single row of this, and every time I need fuel, as you can see here, I have some in my inventory, so that every time I need, control click, and it goes to my fuel chamber, and this lasts a long time. So just bear in mind to try to have produce some alternative energy source, so you can basically be more efficient and more productive, I should say. Finally, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is how it looks like on the other planet, the factory. As you can see here, I have 2 interstellar logistics stations for silicon, titanium, and these crystals, these silicon crystals, if they are called crystals. Let me see the actual name. Yay, it is silicon crystals. Awesome. And this is what it looks like. And I put these towers here just to help me recharge. But with this hydrogen fuel rods, it's not a problem anymore. And I said this factory is still quite small, I did put a lot of power here using wind turbines, and I use wind turbines just because they are easy to produce. And there is wind, I think, in all planets, although here the wind energy ratio is not amazing, but it's still good enough to give me the energy I need for 2 interstellar towers, because when you plug these in, they consume a lot of power. So just bear that in mind. What a tiny factory. Let's plop a few more. Let's make a bigger one. You unlock, by the way, the number of things you can stack up vertically. So if you click here under under upgrades, you have the where is it? Where is it? Here it is, vertical construction. So normally, when I unblock the production of one of these cubes, I normally start with the upgrades because I want to have faster mech and faster everything and more efficient everything before I unlock more technologies, if it makes sense. And that's it, guys. I think that's it. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. Starting to become quite big. Look at this. Soon we'll have this whole planet turn into a gigantic factory, and it's so cool. It's so cool. I mean, if you survived this far, you're already loving this game, I'm sure. It's so cool when you see everything busy. At least I love it. Okay, I'm starting to ramble. Okay, and it's with this view of the undestroyed landing pod that we wrap up this episode. I hope this has been useful to you guys. Let me know in the comment section below if there's something relevant that I should have mentioned at this stage of the game that I haven't. And if you have any questions or whatever, just please leave them in the comments below and I'll reply as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next one. Bye bye.